Alright, Rico, so let's take a look at this. I see you all swagged out in Reebok and J2FIT. Good stuff. You're going to do the deadlift here. So I want you to think about, first and foremost, the deadlift isn't necessarily a pull. Right? Most people think it's all hamstrings and back. There is some good amount of quad in it, so you want to think about more pushing yourself away from the floor with a tight back and hamstrings, but your quads are active. So the best way to do that, when you walk up to the bar, you want to just make sure that you're thinking about almost loading the hips down like a spring instead of bending over to get the bar. So in this place we call Earth, you are fighting against gravity. And gravity acts in a direct linear downward force. So we're going to pick it up against gravity. So that is your line of pull that we want to keep that barbell on the straightest the path that you can to be the most efficient. So when you walk up here, oops, so you're coming on in the screen here. Alright, so if we look first and foremost at your feet, I can't really see them, but you want to make sure that most people, you want to go, I would say, your mid-foot, which is typically like middle of the shoelaces. If you're too far back, that bar's going to fall out in front of you when you pull. If you're too close to it, some people are great at it. They have it right on their shins. Some people aren't. That's something you got to play with. So when you stand up, doing a good job hinging your hips back, right? But now you can see your knees really are starting to kind of cave forward, right? And what happens there is you do have to really think about taking your hips and driving your hips back, you know, almost like that motion, right? And allowing the hips to really kind of open up the pelvis instead of thinking about staying on like almost skis where you're just really tight and linear, meaning your hips are, you know, are skinny. You really want to, like you're going to take a, you know, a piss or crap in the woods and really open up those hamstrings, shove those hips back. So let's get you here. So your setup isn't that bad, right? You're kind of playing around, but look what happens. You really jam your hips, and your butt is way too low for this, right? And a very simple fix is you need to take these knees back that way, right? What that's going to do is that's going to force your hips to be a little more elevated, right? And then you don't need to have this big of a head tilt upwards. You can really just kind of keep your, you know, the head maybe in a neutral motion, and then your gaze, your eye gaze, maybe like straight out here, right? But your neck shouldn't be so much twisted. That's going to allow you really to make sure that you are you're keeping your lats packed and through here. So if we had the better alignment, we might look something like this, right? Where your shins, you know, maybe like on this angle. That's your knee at the base there. Your hip might be at this angle. And then we might have your torso angle maybe like here, right? And then your head, you know, would be somewhere in this area. That way you would have your shoulders slightly over the bar, your lats are real tight like by the armpits, but that would be a little more advantageous for you to get going. So what we're then going to do here is we'll roll you playing. So right on the takeoff, it's just not a great setup because you're already falling forward, right? You can see when you start to move, your hips are actually trying to get into that position. So you don't even move. Like, look how much you're moving around. You're actually exerting force, yet the bar's not even moving yet. And right about there, it starts to move. So, first and foremost, when you look at the video, you need to make sure that your starting position, once you decide to pull, that barbell has to go, right? You can't be pulling yourself in a position because that's wasted energy. Alright, so when you get to going here, how to fix this, you need to load those hamstrings more, right? Like we said, maybe move those knees back a little bit. You're way out in front of that bar. What that's going to do is that's going to cause you to get pulled out front, right? You can see you're almost in a bent over row, right? You can see you got this huge like neck twist, right? So you need to think about, if we reel this back here, you need to really almost load yourself up, let the hips come a little higher, that so you know you're going to have your body angle almost like this. See if I can do this. Like that. That's where you're at, right? I need you to be more like that. Okay, and that's just elevating your hips and being comfortable with your stiff leg deadlift. So as we get you going, right? So that's actually not bad where your feet are at, to be honest. You maybe could scoot up a little bit more underneath that bar, but look how far you move that bar backwards into you. All right, we come down. So if you look down, that's not a bad track down, but look how much that bar fell forward. Look at that. Look at your start. Your feet didn't move at all, but look at this. Right? You moved this bar about, I don't know, 6 inches. So now you're already way out. So see how much your shins are getting out there? So that's your second rep. So right here, you need to drive the knees out and pull your hips back more. But look how far you're already starting to get out. So it's just those knees are just caving in. It doesn't mean don't bend the knees. It means shove the knees out, not forward. Now you're way out in front. Alright, so we're going to play this through. So you load, you need to cock your hips up higher, stay over the bar, pull your knees out of the way. And just take your time on this. You're really caving forward. What that does, that puts a lot of pressure on that lower back. You need to really think about staying on top. Your feet should, most part like shoulder width, you can play with it. The narrower they are, the harder it's going to be for the hamstrings, but you're pretty flexible dude. You just got to really beef up that backside. So hope this was not too confusing. Take a look at some of the videos that we have on J2FIT, and we can work with you this summer. Yeah, thanks for setting this. Thanks for rocking that swag out. Keep it up, man. You look good.